Three, two, one. What is up, everybody? Brian Mendler back in your life on another edition of the podcast. And in a couple minutes, I'm going to be joined by a guy named Ernest Crim, who is a fantastic teacher outside of Joliet, Illinois. And we'll talk to him a little bit just about what's going on in his life. He is What is up, everybody? Brian Mendler back in your life on another edition of the podcast. And today I am super excited to be joined by a guy that, and I was actually trying to think about this last night, where you and I first kind of connected. His name is Ernest Crim. He's in Joliet, Illinois, one of my favorite places to go. It's good to see you, man. How you been?
Hey, great to see you too, man. It's been a while, but it's great to see you under these circumstances.
I love that hair, dude. You got
Appreciate
you.
it.
They're like the opposite.
Right.
Hair versus mine, man.
Right.
I was gonna say, I love the picture behind you too. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I got my book, Black History Saved My Life. That's the poster I take with me when I go to vendor fairs and everything. It's my first book. It's part autobiographical and it's part historical as well. And it talks about just the impact knowing myself has had on me. And it's part of it is, learning some of this from my parents, learning it from professors, but also to the self-inquiry. And I say Black history saved my life for three main reasons. One, growing up on the south side of Chicago in a segregated community, but then going to a predominantly white school, I was exposed to different things I wasn't aware of. And then in college, I'm almost, flunking out. And I take a Black history course and I have this professor that's just absolutely dynamic. And he inspires me to want to be an educator, whether it be a professor, teacher. Come to find out, this same guy taught my mom when she was at UIC.
No,
Yeah, so that was the second time, and I'm like, okay, this is seeming like divine intervention. And then 5 years ago, actually, my wife and I were faced with the hate crime, and through that pursuit, the thing that kept me going was the fact that I knew who I was, and I had this immense pride in myself, and it was kind of like this thing where you can't just treat me anyway and get away with it. So I have to like fight for justice, whether I get it or not. That's up to somebody else, but I'm going to at least pursue this because I understand who I am. So Black History Saved My Life is a statement to the country. Like knowing our true history, knowing who we are can really free us all.
So you kind of said a lot there. I want to, for people who don't understand or don't know, you said your wife and you faced a hate crime, which actually went viral, correct?
Yeah.
Were you recording that?
Yeah. So here's the funny thing. So going back to how we met, this happened like the same year we met, like after though. This happened after we met. And, I was at a point where I was kind of like really, considering speaking, but it wasn't like, I don't know if I can do this. So, me and my wife are just minding our business. That's just what we do. We're going out.
Where were you?
We were in Chicago, actually, on the South Shore Cultural Center. And we were at this event, and it was July 30th of 2016. And it was pretty much an event, for us, it was like the last thing before going back to work. Because, you go back to work sometime in August. So no kids around. We're just having a great time, like a little day party. And then on the way out, we decided to play this cornhole game because I saw it was open. And you know how it is, man. Like when you at a cookout or something or get together, you don't really see this game open. It's always a long line of people playing. So we go over there to play the game and realize it was just one beanbag for the station that we saw. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of odd. And the group next to us had like 10, 15 of them. So, we didn't think anything of it. We're about to probably just leave or whatever. And we noticed a group, they throw the bean bag like extremely far and nobody went to go get it. So my wife is like, well, nobody went to get it after like 5 minutes. So she went to grab it. And like that was the beginning of the end. Like that was it right there. When she grabbed it, a white lady in the group, and it was two black, two white folks. She like came at us aggressively, started screaming at us and yelling. And because I refused to give it back because I just, I was disrespectful. You're not about to get it back. You're violating us. Just like calling my wife like different names and stuff. And then because we refused, she began to call us the N-word. And that's when I took out my phone because I was just like in disbelief. And just as a black man, I kind of felt like, well, that's my equalizer. I can at least expose it because I'm not sure how things would go, but I can at least have this proof. And it escalated from that point to where she got so frustrated that she spat on us. So like I wasn't planning on recording a hate crime. I just thought I was recording just some foolishness. And that's how I began to, I guess, have the courage to speak because I felt like if that was my lowest point, and everybody saw it after I posted it. So the least I can do is speak to people about how I was able to maintain my sanity through it all.
You did maintain your sanity, which was incredible to see, because I don't think most people could have stayed as calm as you guys did. What ended up happening with that whole thing?
Yeah, so I posted it online as soon as I got back. The media, of course, got involved because she got kicked out. The thing that a lot of people won't know when they see this video is by us not hitting her, like an officer actually came soon after, and for some reason he knew what was going on and he grabbed her. But we were trying to figure out what was going on, and he just let her leave. But me and my wife were kind of like giving each other the eye, like, wait a second, but she spit, like that's a crime. So we posted it online. It took, oh man, from July 30th to October to get her arrested,
Wow.
because she lost her job because people, were calling and everything. So it just made it difficult. But like after the viral mystique faded, it was us and it was this situation. And I kept pushing. So she got arrested in October. She posted bond. And then from October of 2016 to October in 2017, I'm in and out of court. And we eventually had the trial. And I think that the case best symbolizes where we are, as a country, because it's obvious that was a hate crime, but it's still up to interpretation based on the statutes we have. And any law is up to interpretation. That's what our judicial branch does. And the judge said that he didn't believe it was a hate crime, but he felt it was assault. So she got 3 months. And again, that just kept the fire going, because for me, it wasn't the case wasn't the end for me. It was just the beginning of me needing to use this story to help people.
So how did you use that story to help people? So you take that, and then what's the next steps for you?
Right. So again, going back to your conversation, well, because you spoke to my whole school district, and my wife, and I actually mentioned you in the book, so you got to check this out. So my wife is like, "Yo, I think you could do that too," and I'm like, I don't know, man. This dude is dope. This dude is amazing. I don't know if I can.
Thank you, man. It means a lot.
But she always believed in me, and so like when that happened, within a couple months, began to get some calls. Like some people wanted me to speak at rallies. And I remember the first rally I went to, here's the crazy thing. It was in the same neighborhood where I went to elementary school. And it was over a police brutality case. And I had never seen that neighborhood that way, because as a child, we don't care. Like we look different, but we're friends. But I had seen like the adult side of that community. And the person who asked me to speak, I went up there and I remember like not even having to write down anything. And I just was like feeling it. I just felt it. And I just went up there and just spoke for like 5 minutes straight. And I was like, man, that felt good. And then like a friend of mine from grad school was like, man, can you come speak, to this middle school in Oak Park River Forest? And that was like my first gig. That was in January of the following year. And it was okay. I think where I messed up was I had PowerPoint slides, too many. And I like it, and I'm kind of like you in the sense that I like to just let it flow. But the PowerPoints are cool for people. But I was relying so much on it, and I was wearing a suit, and that's not my thing. And I'm like, nah, this just didn't feel good. So then, because the story's so big and we're still going through the trial, another friend hits me up and is like, yo, we have a Black Teen Summit. Man, can you share your story? And that was my first paid gig. And that I treated that situation like I was in the classroom. So I had like prompts and stuff, and I was getting the kids involved. And I said, man, this is, and when you get paid for that too, you're like, whoa, I got paid more than I
know.
So it was like, wow, people really like what I'm saying. So for me, it was
what's your message though? Like, so what was your message to them at that first paid gig, and how has it evolved?
So that first message was, I was kind of framing it around life will give you tests, and you're preparing for them throughout your life. And I felt like that was like the ultimate test I can get, not realizing that life was preparing me for this situation by, growing up on the South Side, going to the school, dealing with different situations with the police. Because every time those things happen, I never just like could let it go. I would like ask my mom, and my mom was never just like, oh, and she's an educator too. So she wasn't like, don't worry about that. She fed my inquiry, and she would also like, if she didn't know, she would admit it, but she would help me find out. So like my curiosity as a child was never quelled. Like I just kept going. And that it stuck with me. So I wanted kids to know that there's something in your life that just keeps nagging you, and that's probably because it's aligned with your purpose. And in addition to that, you have to know who you are as a Black person, Latino person, you have to know your identity, because that's going to be the thing that gives you strength in the face of adversity. Because a lot of times people will tell you you aren't something, whether it be explicitly or implicitly. But if you know your true history, that's going to keep you pushing through it all.
And which part? So when you say you know your true history, like what?
Mm.
How do you bring that into it? And do you feel
Yeah.
like most of the people that you're talking to don't know their true history?
Yeah,
I
don't.
I was thinking about this last night. Like, I don't think at any point in my life as a student, at any point did we learn Black history, right? Like, I think
Right.
we learned history, but I don't think we
Right.
learned Black history, right?
Right.
So how does that come in the mix?
Yeah, I know for a fact these kids don't know our true history, because I post on TikTok. Shout out to my TikTok family, by the way,
Yeah,
because
he's a TikTok star, by the way.
people love me over there.
I know they do. They love you. They love. So how? But I wanted to talk about
Yeah,
that too. I want to know how
yeah,
that kind of blew up for you as well.
right. So when I post on TikTok, my proof is that I'm having so many people telling me, "Oh, I wish I learned this." These are adults. These are educators. "Oh, I wish I learned this. I wish I learned this." And truth be told, a lot of the stuff I post on TikTok, I just learned. People don't realize that. I'm very transparent with people. I just learned this probably a week ago, and I'm sharing it with you because I was so shocked. Like there's sometimes you'll get people in the comments like, "Oh, you didn't know this," and like I'm not on some high horse, man. I'm an educator not because I know everything. I'm an educator because I'll probably love to learn more than I love to teach.
Yes.
So for me,
Yes.
I know that if I was a history major, minor in African American studies, I read for fun. I know that the stuff I'm learning is not in the curriculum, because when I was taught world history in high school, we started off with Europe, and like that's just not, you can't start off with world history when everybody comes from Africa, and we have Asia, and we have indigenous Americans, and we have the so like I
Yeah.
started to connect the dots and say, you know what, I don't think that history is being taught in a transformative way. I think that is, I had some really cool teachers, but it was just write these notes down. I'm not that's not education. I'm trying to inspire a group of kids to reach their potential, reach their purpose, fight for things they believe in like I do, and transform their community if they don't believe that it's in the right condition. So I go at it from that perspective, and I intertwine my story. So I don't just start like saying, yeah, we're gonna turn to page 55. No, I say this is what happened to me, and boom, when I was this age, this happened too, and that connects to, you know, uh, Frederick Douglass, or this connects to Malcolm X, or this connects to Harriet Tubman, and so
What
on and
did?
so
Can you
forth.
give me a specific example?
Yeah, so one of the things I do is I talk about again, going to high school and not having being taught my true history, and then I'll connect that to like we'll have like a little pop quiz section. I keep it interactive, and I'll put up like some pictures, and then a question might say, yo, who was actually the first, and I'm giving away a little bit of it. So hopefully there are people here that are watching this that don't bring, well, that the kids don't watch this. They'll know the answer. But like one of the questions will be, who was the first Black president in the continent that is North America? And it's like a trick question. And the answer, I'll have Barack Obama up there, of course, and the answer will actually be Vicente Guerrero. And shout out to Mexican Independence Day, which is coming up. And the trick there is, because I'm letting people know I was learning history from a narrow standpoint, a narrow viewpoint, not realizing that this Hispanic history, which is right next door, this Afro-Mexican president who actually got rid of slavery 36 years before America did, had a big impact on the Underground Railroad going to the South, for instance. So then I go even back further to Africa, and I talk about Imhotep, who was the first doctor in recorded history. So I'm saying, look, if I started world history with, let's say 4000 BC, I miss all this other stuff that happened
Right.
before then, like this, and you probably don't know it either. So it's like we go down that rabbit hole together, and then I bring it right back to where my situation was, and people are like, "Oh, we're still telling the story."
Yeah. So you spend a lot of your time, a lot of your free time researching this. Like, how do you learn all this? Have you just taken it upon yourself to teach yourself, or do you have
Yeah.
teachers as well?
Yeah, I guess you would say I probably have virtual teachers, people who I look up to, people who have a lot of like YouTube channels and everything, and you have scholars like Renudo Rashiki, you have people like Anthony Browder. And for me, it's just like my expertise honestly is Black history. So that's the American standpoint. And I don't think people realize how deep African history and world history goes. So we're talking American history on the long end. We're probably starting 1607, 1619. That's only 400 years, but we're talking possibly 4000, 40,000. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, there's never an end to it. And sometimes I wonder, like, man, will this ever get old to me? And I find a new book and I
Yeah.
find some new information. And then I'm like, wow, I did not know that. Like I growing up, I did not know a fact that I share with my kids now that I didn't learn was that, during the period of enslavement, Black folks would use drums to communicate. And after the Stonewall Rebellion, they could not play the drums legally in certain parts of South Carolina. There's some things like that make me look at music differently now,
Mm,
So I'm
yeah.
just like I'm looking on YouTube, and shout out to the YouTube algorithm because they know what I want because they keep feeding me stuff. So I mean the look, the internet is the law of attraction personified. You put in something, you're gonna keep getting it. And I'm
Yeah.
constantly listening to people who are more intelligent than me, smarter than me on this topic. And the difference, I guess, is because when I learn it, I'm giving it to you, and I'm giving it to you as a speaker and educator too, where some people might just, stay behind the confines of YouTube.
How do you bring this into the classroom? And has there been any pushback, like in the classroom with people saying, "Oh, this isn't really, what we want you to be teaching," or "This isn't
Yeah,
stuff that." How do you how do you handle that?
that's a great question. So I've never had pushback. Shout out to my district. They're very supportive. I think a lot of it too has to do with like, I have a great rapport with my kids, their
Yeah,
parents. I, thankfully, prayerfully, I get a lot of positive reviews from them. That's the most important thing, evaluations, whatever, but like the kids who come back to see me on open house and things, that means a lot. And I think for me, like it was just being honest, being a Black guy from the South Side, like I didn't know my message would connect with so many people who didn't look like me. And I think that was the biggest shock. I've always taught this way, truthfully, but when I took a more public platform, that's the true test to see if it was going to last because it wasn't just in my room anymore.
yeah,
But again, nothing but support. Sometimes local publications, you'll see some nasty comments and stuff, but like those are
sure.
just people who probably they don't care about you. So like I guess the test now would be with this CRT thing being blown up around the country. What will I catch any flag? But honestly, I'm committed more to the kids and the truth, and that's so I'm not really concerned with that. But I keep it interactive, man. I teach an Afro and Latin Studies course now. I got the kids doing an identity project where they're interviewing their family, interviewing friends, and how do you identify as a person racially and who has influenced you. We're talking about U.S. history now. So I teach another course, of course, U.S. history. And I try to push myself every week to at least do something that's different than just having them sit still and read because, I mean, it's a lot to read. It's a lot to learn. But how can I make them have an experience that they'll remember? I'll give you an example. We talk about, the Trail of Tears, which is when the Cherokee tribes, Native American tribes were kicked off and enslaved Africans were kicked off territory in the South around Georgia and Florida, and they had to go on this long trek to Oklahoma. So every year I'll take the kids outside. We'll just go out. I say, look, let's go outside and we're gonna walk around the school. And going once around the school is it's almost a mile. And I'll have them think about different ways, like, yo, why do you think we're walking? They're like, well, because you want to take us outside. You was getting sick of being in there. And that's true too. And, I'll sometimes be like, yeah, I said, I didn't even know what I was going to lesson plan today. So I had to do something. So we went outside. But then at the end, because we're talking about westward expansion, I'll say this was done in memory of the native tribes and the enslaved Black folks who had to walk 1,000 miles. So imagine walking around here 1,000 times. And, that's taken on a lot. I've been doing that for, probably 5, 6, 7, I don't know, 7 years maybe at the most. I'm at a point now because we were locked down so long. I've already been outside like 3 times. So like we'll like go outside for, group conversations. It's still warm here. So we'll go outside for like circle conversations. But as much as I can, I'm saying, how does this relate to what these kids will care about in the present day? And how can I get them up out of their chair? Really?
I love it. So I'm interested to hear your perspective on CRT because that's a big thing right now, and there's a lot of people for it, a lot of people against it. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit ignorant to it. I don't think I really understand it. Can you explain a little bit to me? And what's the basis?
So coming at it from a couple of different standpoints. So critical race theory, being completely honest and transparent. Again, I did not know what this term was before it became politicized because I just looked at it like I want to teach, and I'm not sure if your viewers out there they might know about Howard Zinn's book, People's History of the United States. I like to teach history from that perspective, meaning the people's perspective. We know about the presidents and everything, but I want to know what were black folks doing, indigenous people, what were poor white folks doing, what were women doing in history. So critical race theory from because I know people now who have they have their dissertation written about it. It's technically it's a more of a college thing. I don't believe there's really a school district that like every educator teaches critical race theory. It's looking at law from the perspective, primarily law from the perspective of how did race impact these different things. And when I look at it that way, I was like, well, you can't look at American history without saying that law like has been impacted by race, you know. So I guess a couple of the issues I have with it is I believe that it's a witch hunt for me because it's like critical race theory is like another way of saying, well, we don't want ethnic studies taught or whatever. But it doesn't sound good to say, well, let's not teach Black history or Latino history or Asian history. So critical race theory. I don't believe, well, I can't say I don't believe because history isn't a theory. You know,
Right.
there are things that
Right.
happen. And
Right.
as a teacher, you can choose what you want to teach more of, but it's a fact that, you know, our founding fathers, they had some great thoughts, did great things, but they also enslaved people. Like we just have to look at the totality. We're not saying that Thomas Jefferson didn't write one of some of the most eloquent things I've ever read before. We're just saying that let's also consider this right here. Let's
Which I think is I think true for all people, right? Like
exactly
for all people, if you go back through anybody's life,
right.
you know, you're gonna find things that you're like, wow, that's amazing. And you're also, if you pick hard enough
Right.
and you look, you're gonna say, well, look at what that person did as well, you know.
And I think that's important because when I first started teaching history, I would tell my kids like, yo, these are people we're studying. We're not studying superheroes. This is not Marvel comics. They did some good things, they did some bad things, but you have to understand that when they did this, this was the present day to them. This is what they and it's I try to find a different way to explain history every year. And that's a new thing that really got me thinking. History is the study of the present. So when they did that, they had no like idea of what was going to actually unfold. Thomas Jefferson said himself, like, man, one day this is really going to blow up in our face. And lo and behold, 90 years after he wrote the Declaration of Independence, the Civil War happens. He's long gone. So there are long-term effects for what people have done in the past. And I think that if we can't have an honest conversation about that, then we'll keep going through the cycles of history. As I tell my kids, we learn history so that we can either repeat the cycles we want or disrupt the cycles that are harmful to us. And by saying we want to get rid of critical race theory, we're saying that we want to teach a sanitized version of history to keep kids, to me, complacent to the same thing that keeps them in this situation. Now, our kids did not create this, but they have to suffer. They have to suffer because of the decisions of adults. But we make it seem like it's there for this the phone. It's always this. It's who like you created the baby crib that they got in. So who's at fault if they can't sleep? You know what I'm saying? So so that's where I come from with like I think that like I get like the term sounds polarizing, but you know, our history is not a theory, it's a fact. And I think that sometimes people can use that to try to get people away from the bigger issue at hand right now.
Yeah. So the way you do it too is really great. And you've been able to take, you know, modern technology and the, you know, like to say the place where the kids are, right? And you've gone there and you've kind of blown up. And how did that start for you? Like, how did it start for you to kind of say, let me take this to TikTok, which I love. I love it because really the attention span in America, right? What is it, like 20 seconds, 30 seconds? But it's incredible though how some people can put so much into such a short little burst. How did that start for you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take you back. So again, when the hate crime first happened, that's when I first started to post vlogs. And you know, when the crime first happened, they would get a lot of views, of course, because everybody's tuning in to what I had to say. After a while, of course, people started to, you know, go different directions, and I would still just constantly be posting, just trying to figure out what my niche was. I didn't really know like what my main thing was. I didn't realize that I would be where I am today. Just my thing is I'm using Black history to teach people from this standpoint. So I would just post on like Facebook and YouTube are my main things. You know, doing my little thing on Twitter. You know, Instagram was an afterthought. And then what happened was over the years, you know, like some videos would do really good. I got speaking engagements from some videos and so on and so forth. And like a year or so ago, I had some students talking about TikTok, and I would always see the TikTok videos when they will pop up on other platforms. And my thing was, look, if they're good enough to be on the other platform, then that's the only place I'll watch, because I'm not about to go on that thing. All I see is kids dancing and stuff. I ain't doing that. Like I'm not
and pointing at words.
Yeah, I would just see this. Like I'm not what is this? What everybody's clapping and pointing. Like I don't dance. Like so I had a student talking about, like, I think a year ago, said she went viral for something. She was so excited. I'm like, oh, that's what's up. Okay, whatever, you know. And then like this past year, we're virtual, and I had a student, I had her 2 years in a row. And she was saying the same thing. Mr. Crim, I just posted this video. It got this, and that. I'm like, man, it must be easy to go viral on it. All my kids talking about they went viral. So a lot around that same time, so like earlier this year in 2021, on Instagram, I noticed that I was following a couple educators who would repost TikTok videos on Instagram, and one of them was a history teacher. Shout out to anti-social studies teacher. She's a great follow. And I was like, man, these videos are very informative. Like, if she's doing that on here, maybe I could too. And then again, that student, she's again talking about she's going viral and all this stuff. And one day, you know, we started to go back to work, and we had like this hybrid situation going where it was like we would be in school like 4 days out the week, and we would see the kids like on different, you know, cohorts or whatever.
Yeah.
So I would have a lot of free time in between, and I'm on my like lunch or something one day, and I'm like, let me just see what this thing is about. And I was looking at like, you know, on this day in history, Black History thing, and it was something about Ida B. Wells. And I was just reading more about her because she spoke out against lynching, and she was a Black woman who everybody told her to be quiet, from white folks to Black folks. And I was just reading like, man, this woman was brave. I said, this woman was a G, man. You know, so I just recorded a video, and I'm like, this is what Ida B. Wells did. She was a G. And then I posted it, and it got like 7,000 views. I'm like, ooh, that's, man, like if I did that on Instagram, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So I said, maybe people are liking it. So about a weekend, I might have had like 400 followers. And you know, I just kept posting, and I had like one video, like I was talking about this lady named Polly, who I just learned about, by the way. She escaped to slavery, had a bunch of land on the border of Ohio. And she would actually, when she would notice, because Ohio was a border state, that slave catchers posing as white allies would capture Black people who ran away and return them. And she would sometimes intervene, and she would like have a knife, and she would like chase them off and stab them. And the legend also says she would sometimes keep a pot of boiling water concealed. Don't ask me how, I don't know. But you know those pots of those water bottles that help things last a long time.
Yeah.
But that's all my sources said she did this. So I posted that, and again, I just said Polly was a G. She was stabbing slave catchers. And that thing like went to 1 million, and I was like,
Wow.
whoa. And that's what I said. There's a thirst for this type of knowledge. So I did that. I posted a story about a local situation out in our community where, you know, a young lady was abused, and that like spread as well. And I just kept posting, and the following grew. Now I'm over like 100,000. And I just like, I didn't understand that so many people cared about this stuff the way I did. And I guess the lesson is like, there's a community for whatever you're interested in.
Yeah.
And for me, like I found a stage that works, because with TikTok, it kills two birds with one stone. Because I used to record myself, then I would have to upload it to a different app. Then I would have to add all these different things. But on TikTok, you do it all in one. And that's why it's cool for me, because I got like 4 years of editing my own videos. So now I'm just adding it all in the same place. And the quality isn't, in terms of like the background and all that stuff, it's not as crisp as other apps, separate apps, but you get the social media component too. And like it's crazy now, Brian, because I'll be in school and kids just be staring at me, and you know, they'll be like, hey, I saw you on TikTok. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? What's up? So it's kind of, it's pretty cool, man. So.
Yeah. So they all know, the kids all know that. And what about the other teachers? Do they know the presence that you have?
Yeah, it's because even before then, I still, even though I never had anywhere near 100,000 followers on any platform, I still had a big platform, at least locally. So a lot of teachers already knew about that, because I would post a lot of stuff for advocacy and stuff like that.
Yep.
I've had some teachers on like Institute Days come up to me and say they really liked it, because it gets to a point on TikTok where it's really hard to keep up with, you know, traffic and everything. So I don't really know who follows me, but I do know that they have something called the For You page, and you'll just get like videos that they think you'll like. And I know I'll pop up on some people's page, and you know, so I think that's how it works. But Yeah, it's and a lot of the stuff I talk about, man. I mean, it's not the prettiest stuff sometimes, So I don't expect everybody to like it. I'm sure I have some people who do appreciate it, and some people who are like, I wish this guy would shut up. So
Yeah, well, look, welcome to the world, right? Like,
exactly
welcome to
right,
the world. And
right.
the bottom line is, I heard Howard Stern say this a long time ago, and I'm not even a Howard Stern fan, but I heard
Yeah,
him say this, and it's always stuck with me. He said, I don't care if people love me or people hate me, as long as people listen to me. And
boom.
I think, right, like, the thing is, if you're gonna speak and you're gonna have your opinions, you're gonna piss some people off, and that's how it works.
Yeah,
Welcome to the world, and that's
yeah,
fine, right?
yeah.
That's fine. Like, at least people are listening, and I think discomfort's the appetizer for growth. I think,
Mm-hmm.
like, a lot of time, that's my whole gig, is to make you uncomfortable in my workshop, but that's what pushes you in life. And, like, that's not just true emotionally, that's true physically as well, right? Like, discomfort, you got to go through a hard workout to get stronger, right? And
Yep,
it's not
yep.
always fun going through the workout. And I think that's, especially right now in our society, I think, it's important for people to feel uncomfortable, and it's important
Exactly.
for people to have uncomfortable conversations about the world, because I know I didn't grow up learning this stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
don't even know what I learned,
Yeah,
really,
right,
but I
right.
know it wasn't this. I know
Yeah,
it wasn't this. And
yeah.
how do you decide? Do the videos kind of just happen? Like, how do you? I saw you in St. Louis at the Arch. Like, how do you?
Yeah,
Do you just go on trips? I mean, there's
yeah.
history everywhere, so it's kind of a
Right.
cool thing that you can say, well, here's where I'm going. How do I connect this and then bring it to everybody else?
Yeah, man, I think I have this so the internet, I don't think people realize how dope it is to be in this generation. Because unless you saw what it was like before, you don't realize. And I don't think a lot of people do. Having to go to the library and ask for a book or look through the catalog and search and do research papers that way. Look at a physical encyclopedia. I saw what that world was like. And
Yeah.
my first year in college was when Facebook happened. So I went from having to go to the library, hop on the bus in school, go to the library, to when I wanted something, I could just search for it. So my curiosity, again, shout out to my parents for fostering that. It's never gone away. So when I want to know something, I just search it. And I'm always wondering now, I know, like, okay, what were black people doing here? That's always my question. What were they doing during this time? Because we've been here for a long time too. So something had to be going on. So, like, for me, it was always just, if I think this is a crazy fact, I'm gonna just share to see how it goes. Now, of course, I'll do the analytics too. So I'll look at which ones, are doing pretty good. And I'll just kind of try to post more of those. But what I always try to do though is I want to let people know, like, I'm not just posting this because I want you to watch it. I'm posting this because I want you to think, and I want us to understand that we have to come to grips with this stuff, because this is what created the current situation we have, and also to understand that we can get through this if we have these honest conversations. But for me, I think, when I started going on road trips with my family a few years back, and we went to Destin, Florida, and on the way back, I was like, I knew it was like this. It's called Memorial for Peace and Justice, I believe, and it's a lynching memorial. So we drove through there and we stopped. I think it was in Birmingham, Alabama, and that was like an amazingly man, sad experience. It was just really it's a deep place. I would recommend every American go there just to see this. They have like they have these tombs hanging like bodies from trees. And I just remember thinking, like, there's a lot of history around here, because they would have these jars with the soil from places people got lynched. And a couple months later in the summer, we go to Myrtle Beach. On the way back, I'm like, well, we in South Carolina. I traced my ancestry to through South Carolina from Florida. My family didn't even know that. So I said, well, let me see if there's a plantation here. We went there, visited the plantation. Now, this is before I even did any videos about that stuff. But in my mind, it had always been like, well, what was going on in this place where I'm at? So when I go to a town, one thing you kind of do, as a black person, you wonder when you in a small town, is it safe here? To be honest with you, like, is it okay? So you'll search. Shout out to James Lowen, rest in peace. He wrote a book called Sundown Towns. This white guy, he used his privilege to go into these towns and educate us on these towns that aren't really safe for black folks. And whenever I go into a town, I'm like, okay, put it in sundown, and then I might put in town racism, and I might like, hey, let me what do I see, and then lo and behold, I'll come across something like the Gateway Arch, and I have a filter. So like me and my family, we have a group text, And I'll send them a text sometimes like, did you know this? Because I'm trying to figure out, is it just me? Because I'm supposed to be the Black History guy.
Mhm.
And if I don't know this, and then y'all don't know this, then this thing is going to really surprise a lot of people. So here's what I do. I go to a place, it could be a suburb around me. I'll look up some inspiring Black history or some sad Black history, and then I'll record part of it and I just save it. I go back to it later. Like that Gateway Arch video was a month old. I didn't
Mm.
even like, because I was like, man, am I gonna have time to post this? Are people gonna care? And then that thing just like took off like none other. So for me, like I think educators out there and people have to understand education is a lifelong journey and you're never gonna stop learning.
Mm.
And what we want to do is just exhaust it and then pass it on to the next generation and say, take this baton. I don't want you to have to repeat what I learned. I want you to take it to the next level. And I'm gonna just keep going until I want to really like do what Carter G. Woodson did in this generation. He's the reason we have Black History Month. And I want people to have that same appreciation in this present day.
You said a while ago that your mom was a teacher, an educator.
Yeah.
So you grew up in an education family. What
Yeah.
did your parents do? What did your mom teach?
Oh, my mom, well, she taught math, but that didn't really matter. You know, she was a middle school math teacher in the hood, man. She was about saving kids, you know, and she's a preacher, so she retired and she's a minister now. That was kind of her thing. Like she's in class, you know, she's done now, so this she can't get punished, but she'd be praying for kids, you know, like just like she would be taking these kids to church on Sunday. I grew up like it was just me and my older sister, but for me, we always had other brothers and sisters because we going to church, all of a sudden we detour and we picking up somebody else, you know. So like I saw that firsthand, especially my parents split up when I was 7. So like it was times financially things weren't the best, but she was still doing what she could for the kids. And yeah, she taught math, but again, like it was always really just about these kids need me. Their parents might not be in their life. They might not be in the best situation. Even if they are, I need to reinforce some of these things. So she never even told me you should go into education. She never like pushed that on me. Again, as fate would have it, I just somehow end up in a place where I almost flunk out of school, take a different course, love the profession. Like I said, when we first started talking, find out this guy taught my mom too. And like that's just kind of how it was. My dad, you know, he worked at Sears for 30 years straight and
Wow.
retired as soon as he could, just like my grandfather did when he was a post office worker. So like I saw that dedication, like 30 years straight, you know, never complained, got up, did his job. And I get a lot of my curiosity from him too. And I just found this out the other day, which is kind of funny because you always learn it, right? You know, me and we were talking about this new show on Netflix in our group chat. And he was like, man, I don't like I just watch documentaries all day. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the exact I can only if I'm not watching a show with my wife, I'm not watching it. By myself, I'm watching a documentary or I'm watching an interview or something like that. So like I get that from him. Like just wanting to constantly learn more, the inquiry, the ability to keep to myself and hone in. So I just have that combination of like kind of like the introvert and the extrovert.
Yeah.
And it was just a perfect recipe for me.
Do you remember them splitting up as a kid?
Oh yeah, vividly, man. I talk about it in my book too. I was 7 years old. I remember like it was yesterday, man. You know, because my oldest daughter is 8 now, so I always in the back of my mind think about that mindset that she has now, and being called into the house, and me and my sister were playing, and just like I don't even think I understood what divorce meant, man, but like I felt it when they said it, and I just remember breaking down crying, and I was like, that was something that and I also understood from that the importance of giving support for your kids because my dad made sure that I was a part of a support group at school at 7, and we met with other kids who were dealing with stuff like that.
Hmm.
And like seeing that subconsciously let me know like it's okay to like fall into the issues you're dealing with and be honest about it and find and seek out other people. Don't just keep it inside. So I definitely remember that.
Did they remain? So it sounds like it was
Mm.
amicable though, and
Yeah.
both of your parents in their own lane really did a good job taking care of you.
Yeah, yeah, and they're friends. Like that's why I said we have a group chat. Like every day, my sister, myself, my mom and dad, we text about different issues and what like because now we all got kids, so we talking about their grandkids and everything. And yeah, I mean, I outside of course the Black History thing being a motivating factor, I couldn't be here without having that type of stability because even though they weren't together, he was still active in my life. They still had a great relationship. I saw him every week, every other weekend. So that gave me that drive. And I even talk about in my book how like whenever my dad would pick me up, the first thing he asked me, he give me a kiss on the forehead. How was the test? What you get on the test? And I'm like, dude, what you talking? How do you know I had a test? This is 2001 in high school. How did you know I had a test? You can't look up our grades online at that point. So just that accountability of like
Yeah.
the expectation. If you had anything, less than a certain thing, or you weren't pushing yourself, he's not going to be hard on you, but he just wants to know like what's going on. Like you doing okay with everything. So that had a tremendous impact on me, and it still does today, because as children, we see our parents. They're our first role model, whether
Yeah.
we mention them or not. Whether we might say the superheroes or the athletes, but they are truly the first example, for better or for worse.
No question. And I say that all the time. Like, I'm not interested in athletes being my role models. Like, I don't, same with the president. Like, you don't even have to be my role model as the president. Like,
Right.
you just have to be a good leader.
Yep.
The role model has to come from closer. I mean, look, it can come from there as well, but it has to come from people in your circle, right? In
Yep.
your life that
100%.
on a daily basis are with you. At what point in the process did you figure out that education was the thing that you wanted to get yourself into? Or did you not? Did you say, I just want to go down this path of history and figure out where that takes me?
Yeah, great question. So what happened was, going back to college, I chose psychology for my major because I didn't know what to pick, honestly. And I thought it sounded interesting. And like I would just remember being that friend that people came to talk about their problems. And I'll just be on the phone like, yeah, And I was like a good listener, I guess. So I said that might be cool, but I wasn't doing good in the class. And I honestly didn't care that I wasn't doing that good. Like I tried to do better, but not really. So I ended up dropping the major, and I just took Black history because like it was something I wanted to take in high school, but it was an elective. My senior year, I did a program called work study. So I left school early to work. And I said, let me just see, because like my parents again can only give me so much. It's not their expertise, it's just their lived experience. So I wanted to just see what else I can learn. And I take this course, love it. I take another course, and that's when I had the professor that my mom had. And I just remember saying like I want to be kind of like a professor, because I just love the command that they had in the class. And like it's different from high school too, because kids are there, they pay to be there. It seems like you have a little more freedom. So, and this guy was different than any other educator I'd ever seen. He's playing music as we come into class. Like he was a 60-some-year-old guy, but he was very soulful and just very in tune with what was going on. Loved hip hop, all of that. So for me, it was like I felt like if I could give this information to the people in my community primarily the same way I'm getting it now, but a lot earlier, then I could help them out. Because fortunately enough for me, because my parents didn't play none, I didn't get involved in gangs and stuff. So that didn't happen for me. But on the flip side, I had a lot of friends and associates who did. But I feel like if you know this history, and of course you have the guidance too, I think you make better decisions, because a lot of us, we make decisions based on what we saw previously or what's around us. So for me, history and education was an advocacy piece. I looked at education like, well, I want to help the world. So I want to help our community. I want to help our country. How do I do this? Well, with my passion, it's probably not going to come working at a bank. I don't want to help people. I mean, I want to help you financially, but like I want to lead you in that direction. I want to bring in the banker to come talk to you.
Yes.
Like, so I want to be there. And that's kind of what I use education for, man. Like it's for me, like history is the backdrop for like life skills. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna take this topic and I'm going to teach you about life today and how this topic can help you out moving forward.
Right. I always felt as a teacher, I always felt like I was a broker more than anything else. Like I was like sort of this middleman where I was connecting, what does a kid want to do with their life? What is a kid interested in? Okay, let me find somebody in my community, or let me find somebody that kid will relate to and let them become a part of it. And it was, to me, that was my favorite thing. Listen, these 45-minute blocks go quick. Is there anything you'd like to leave people with?
Yeah, I would just say, hit me up, ernestcrim.com. I'm on TikTok at mrcrim3, Instagram mrcrim3. Man, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I just want to tell people like, if you listening to Brian Miller, you're on the right track in education. So, but hit me up. I would love to come talk to your school and your youth. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely hit him up. His book is called Black History Saved My Life. He is a TikTok star. It's great seeing you, man. Great talking to you. I appreciate it.
Likewise, brother.
All right, everybody, don't forget to rate, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to download. Shout us out on social media. We'll catch you guys soon, and I'll be back with you same time next week. Until then, I say peace. I'm out of here. Good one, man.